Sodium. So much sodium. It's seemingly everywhere in the canned soup aisle, no matter how many vegetables are included. Here's a guide to avoid the soups that hurt the heart and instead stock up on the more nutritious options. Chowder is a stew made with seafood like clams, shrimp, fish, or lobster, and either milk or cream. It originated in the early 18th century in England as a hearty meal that utilized a variety of seafood. But it's not exactly the healthiest option, as the creamy base adds a lot of fat and calories. For example, Progresso's traditional New England clam chowder contains more than 400 calories and nearly 20 grams of fat in an 18.5-ounce can. And its rich and hearty chicken corn chowder has almost 400 calories and 18.5 grams of fat in the same-sized can. Compare that to the same brand's traditional Manhattan clam chowder, which has a tomato base and contains only about 225 calories and only 4.5 grams of fat in a 19-ounce can.
Who wants chowder?
Much like chowder, bisques are known for their creaminess, and that can come at a price, as they tend to contain saturated fat. Eating too much saturated or trans fats can lead to high cholesterol levels, and a large accumulation of cholesterol can restrict blood flow in the arteries, potentially causing significant health problems, such as heart disease and strokes. When you compare bisques, it's clear they're not all the same. For example, 1 cup of Whole Foods Market lobster bisque has 20 grams of fat, 13 grams of saturated fat, and a half gram of trans fat, whereas Campbell's Well Yes butternut squash bisque has 5 grams of fat, 3 grams of saturated fat, and no trans fat. If you must buy a bisque, then a vegetable variety without heavy cream is the healthiest route. Broccoli is an excellent source of minerals, vitamins, fiber, and antioxidants, which may have anti-inflammatory properties. But there's a big difference between a bowl of steamed broccoli and creamy broccoli and cheese soup, as the latter adds a significant amount of saturated fat and sodium. A 15.5-ounce container of Campbell's Slow Kettle-style creamy broccoli cheddar bisque contains 28 grams of fat and 11 grams of saturated fat. That's 55% of the recommended daily amount of saturated fat. It also contains 1,420 milligrams of salt, which is 62% of the daily recommended amount. With this much saturated fat and sodium in one can, it's probably a better idea to make your own so that you can control the ingredients. You can swap out dairy-based milk with a plant-based variety, such as almond milk, which has no saturated fat. Potatoes offer significant health benefits, as they're a good source of fiber, potassium, calcium, vitamin B6, folate, magnesium, and antioxidants.
Potatoes! Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew.
But when you have potatoes in soup form, you have to keep an eye out for too much salt and too many preservatives. And potato soups often have extra ingredients like bacon or cheese, which can add additional fat and calories. For example, one 15.5-ounce container of Campbell's Slow Kettle-style baked potato soup with applewood smoked bacon contains 430 calories and 30 grams of fat, including 10 grams of saturated fat, which is half of the daily recommended amount. And with 1,420 milligrams of sodium, you're already at 62% of the daily recommendation. This soup also includes MSG, a preservative that is found in many processed foods. While MSG is generally considered safe, it has been shown to overstimulate the appetite. Mushrooms are low in sodium, rich in vitamin D and vitamin B6, and they may protect the brain from mild cognitive impairment and aid in overall gut health. Despite all that, you might want to think twice about opening a can of cream of mushroom soup. Sadly, this variety is loaded with way too much salt. If you haven't noticed already, that tends to be a common problem among canned soups. For example, Campbell's cream of mushroom has 870 milligrams of sodium per half cup serving, which represents 1/3 of the daily salt allowance recommended by the American Heart Association. So take it easy on your ticker and skip the cream of mushroom. Chicken and dumpling soup is a classic Southern comfort food, but the nutritional value of some popular canned versions might make you uncomfortable. Unfortunately, the high sodium levels in canned chicken and dumpling soups are rather significant, and with high sodium comes a possible increase in blood pressure.
Turning out to be a real pain in the ass.
One 241-gram serving of Dinty-Moore chicken and dumplings, which is about 1 cup, has 200 calories, 7 grams of fat, 2 grams of saturated fat, and 940 milligrams of sodium. Meanwhile, Campbell's Chunky Creamy Chicken and Dumplings has 170 calories, 10 grams of fat, 2 grams of saturated fat, and 890 milligrams of salt per cup. And 1 cup of Progresso's Creamy Roasted Chicken with Herb Dumplings has 150 calories, 7 grams of fat, 2 grams of saturated fat, and 680 milligrams of sodium. Rather than reach for a can at the grocery store, we recommend making a healthier version of chicken and dumplings yourself at home. You can reduce the amount of sodium by making your own broth, and you can omit some of the fat by switching out the heavy cream with plant-based milk. Canned chili is often a no-no as well, though not all varieties are the same. There can be a wide range of fat, calories, and sodium in each brand's product. For example, Wolf brand chili without beans contains over half the daily recommended amounts of sodium and saturated fat. It's also high in cholesterol. According to registered dietitian and nutritionist Sharon Palmer, a serving with more than 460 milligrams of sodium is generally considered too high. That's 20% of the daily recommended amount. With this in mind, the Eden chili made with organic black beans, quinoa, and spices is a solid option, as it's not too salty and it's made with lots of veggies and whole grains. One of the best canned soups to buy is the classic tomato. That's because tomatoes are rich in lycopene, an antioxidant that has many health benefits, including fighting off the development of chronic diseases like diabetes and heart disease. Furthermore, it may also protect the immune system and can lower the risk of developing certain cancers. Lycopene also gives tomatoes their red color. And let's not ignore that tomatoes taste great and give lots of flavor to your soup. Amy's Organic Chunky Tomato Bisque, light in sodium, is a great choice. It's bursting with tomato flavor and doesn't taste under-seasoned, despite having reduced salt. Wolfgang Puck's Organic Tomato Basil Bisque is also a tasty option. Both of these soups are organic. Another one that's worth a buy is Pacific Foods Organic Creamy Tomato Soup, which is rich in protein and potassium and doesn't have too many added sugars. And whichever canned tomato soup you choose, you can always enjoy it with the classic pairing of grilled cheese.
How's the grilled cheese?
Actually, it's amazing.
When you think of canned soups, you probably consider beans an added ingredient, rather than the star attraction. But black beans do indeed offer main character energy when you're eating black bean soup. And for good reason, as they're full of fiber, which can boost your heart health and digestive health. They're also great sources of magnesium and iron. Fooducate, which is a free mobile app to help Americans learn about their food, ranks Goya's black bean soup with a grade of A-. It contains 120 calories per serving and less than half a teaspoon of added sugar. Trader Joe's Latin-style black bean soup is also a winner, even though it comes in a Tetra Pak container rather than a can. However, do be aware that both of these soups are high in salt, which of course is a recurring issue in the canned soup aisle. Lentils are a powerhouse in soups. They're packed with proteins, fiber, calcium, iron, potassium, folate, and more. According to the Good Housekeeping Nutrition Lab, Amy's light in sodium lentil soup is among the healthiest canned soups on the market. It contains half the salt of the original, and it's a great source of fiber and protein without added sugar. It's also 100% vegan and organic. This variety is also a top pick for culinary expert Ligia Lugo, a recipe developer and co-founder of the Daring Kitchen. As she revealed to The Strategist, she and her husband always keep their pantry stocked with a few cans. Some other lentil options that are worthy of high grades include Progresso's lentil with vegetables and Health Valley's organic no-salt added lentil soup. According to the American Heart Association, adults should be eating 5 daily servings of vegetables, such as corn, carrots, potatoes, broccoli, and bell peppers. Thankfully, these particular veggies are often available in canned soups, and one particularly great option in this area is Campbell's line of Well Yes. So go ahead and stock up your pantry with them to ensure that you'll always have veggies available.
Can soup be a beautiful thing? Well, yes.
The Well Yes lightly salted vegetable noodle soup is a particularly smart choice. So is the Health Valley canned organic minestrone, which features lots of veggies, including organic peas, spinach, tomatoes, celery, carrots, and more. And Health Valley's organic vegetable soup, which is also loaded with organic veggies naturally enough, is another great product to consider. Chicken soup is pretty much the gold standard soup for when you're a little under the weather, or when you just want some cozy comfort food. One study found that it has an anti-inflammatory effect, which certainly may help you feel better when you're sick. However, not all canned chicken soups are the same. Just as with other varieties of soup, they can be high in salt and fat, so always pay attention to the nutritional information. Good Housekeeping put together a list of top canned soups, which included Pacific Foods' organic Southwest-style chicken tortilla. They noted its yummy flavor and praised it for being dairy-free, packed with protein and fiber, and low in calories and fat. Still, it's not perfect, as it is a little too salty. Campbell's Chicken Noodle is a bona fide classic that often tops the list of best canned chicken noodle soups for its addictive umami flavor, and Progresso's traditional chicken noodle is another great option that includes chunks of chicken and sliced carrots. You'd be wise to stock up on canned minestrone, an Italian vegetable-based soup that often includes tomato, beans, and rice or pasta. Minestrone recipes can vary, but you can generally expect cannellini beans, which are packed with protein, folate, iron, and many more healthy ingredients. Minestrone soup is typically a good source of fiber and protein. Consumer Reports did a blind taste test of 15 soups, ultimately identifying 3 as overall quality choices: Tabachnik Minestrone, Trader Joe's Organic Hearty Minestrone, and Zuppa Rustica Minestrone. Some other minestrone soups that also fit the bill include Amy's Light in Sodium Organic Minestrone, Campbell's Condensed Minestrone, Campbell's Well Yes Minestrone, Health Valley Organic Minestrone No Salt Added, Progresso Reduced Sodium Hearty Minestrone, and Tabachnik Low Sodium Minestrone.
Mamma mia. Mamma mia.
Canned split pea soup is another healthy and tasty selection for your pantry, as split peas are rich in iron, zinc, and protein. Eating peas and other legumes can help you manage health conditions including hypertension, inflammation, prediabetes, and cholesterol. But do keep in mind, as with all soups, that you should check the label for sodium levels. 1/2 cup of Campbell's split pea with ham and bacon condensed soup has 170 calories, 2 grams of fat, 0.5 grams of saturated fat, and 790 milligrams of sodium, which is 34% of the recommended daily value. And do note that 1 can contains 2.5 servings, so if you plan to eat the whole thing, that's a lot of salt. And that's not the only pea soup on the market that ratchets up the salty content. You're better off considering a low-sodium variety like Amy's Organic Split Pea Light in Sodium, which has only 310 milligrams of sodium, as well as 120 calories, 1 gram of fat, and no saturated fat.